it starting we. Don't be frightened, sweetness. It's for the best. I could be with you the whole time. Trust me. And let me distract you a little bit with our Nancy story. Neil Hopkins, Midnight Robber. Let's talk then. Plato, Phaedrus. Labor Day, Crown Heights, Brooklyn, 1999. There I was. Standing half naked in the middle of Eastern Parkway, covered from head to foot in blue paint. Head, bad. My costume, horns, shorts, jungle boots, a rough tail, and a nearly empty leather rum pouch around my neck. Watch me now. A former Caliban reclaiming myself in Brooklyn. A comfortably cliche champion of my culture. A displaced Trini. A shameless measure of the condition that my physical appearance had defined. Indulging in one of the few pleasures of exile. More Caribbean than I'd ever had cause to be when I was in Trinidad. The day had already begun to cool and our band, the Blue Devils, had long since dispersed. Its members moving back along the parade routes to mix in with the other bands. Letting their drying, sweat-salted paint rub off onto bare skins and sequins that loosened with every gyration, trying to make the day last for as long as they could. Before long, I too would go back to join them. To have a time. Whining, chipping, drinking, jumping, grabbing, pushing. But before I did, there I was. An overseasoned bacchanalist, standing in blue, watching people twist and turn, and for a moment I was that stripped man, driven back to the self-astonishing elemental force that has driven me at different times to turmoil and to peace. The mind. For as Derek Walcott writes, the mind forms the basis of the Antillean experience. A shipwreck of fragments, echoes, a tribal vocabulary, and partially remembered customs that are not yet decayed but strong, stronger than ever. From a distance, those of us in the crowd, swelling as we are often told to the millions, seemed indistinguishable from one another, which is the case with crowds. More remarkable was the fact that up close, in the midst, when the differences were most apparent and seemed to matter less and less, all I was thinking about was home. Home. Trinidad. And a familiar lamentation. Home. Home. The season, whose pleasure barricaded them as they waited for gunshots to cut through, offbeat, to cut through the soca, the stiffening bodies of police who resented them and barricaded their pleasure with disgust. Home. The Caribbean. And I had never missed it more. Strange it is that millions engaged in the contiguous struggle for pleasure could evoke a few islands and their citizens. Citizens who, I am certain, would find it strange that I would choose to practice hyper-awareness in the midst of a fete. But this is the case with crowds, as well as memories and histories. They help us reenact what Walcott calls the gathering of bones, the broken pieces that is the care and pain of the Antilles. Recuperative work. The kind of work that makes the perfect kind of sense and that rum and revelry are unable to mask. It occurred to me that a people should want to demonstrate in no uncertain terms that they consider themselves as worthy of recognition as any other people. Not merely to get by from day to day, situation to situation, with neither a say nor a stake in the way those situations and their very lives unfold, but to have some role in shaping their destiny as a people. It should be as basic and imperative as the need to survive or to secure food and shelter for oneself and one's family. It is an imperative that is no and not so ambitious or impossible an attempt as undermining hegemony altogether. Rather, it is one of having a reasonable stake in the status quo. The status quo. Or at least it ought to mediate the conditions of our public interactions and some of our private ones. It occurred to me that our performances ought to be more than metaphors of our desires and that dissipate when the situations change, when the euphoria of a sanctioned chance to explode in the sun, in the public, passes into memory. As I see it, then, one of the objectives of rhetoric, seen from a cultural perspective, is to preserve and solidify the prevailing aspects of identity among members of a particular social group. Another is to gain a deeper, more robust, self-conscious understanding of effective discourse practices among members of that group and, in so doing, achieve the sort of praxis that can equip the members of that group for the life they imagine. And by designating such practices effective, I refer to rhetorical activities' capacity to empower rhetors, practitioners of rhetoric, and members of the audience through active engagement, not simply to persuade them of this or that position. I'm concerned with all of these things. People past, half-naked kindred. Stop. Look. Look. Look again. Stop. There is still more to come. Wait. Exactly how many carnivals had I missed? That's from the introduction of the book. And it sort of, I believe, helps to situate me within the discourse that I hope to discuss, showing that I am inextricably linked to the subjects, to the topics, to the ideas that interest me. But I cannot remove myself in any way, or shape, or form from the things that concern me most deeply.
I went away.